Thanksgiving is family only. Find somewhere else to eat. That was the entire message my daughter sent. No explanation, no apology, just a sentence sharp enough to cut straight through bone. I stared at the words on my phone, my thumb hovering above the screen, as though a reply might somehow rewrite the truth. But nothing came. Not anger, not confusion, just a hollow ache in my chest that felt older than the day itself. I set the phone down on my kitchen counter and whispered to the quiet room, "All right, Selena, if that is how you want it." 2 days before Thanksgiving, Savannah was already humming with holiday chatter, but I felt none of it. I grabbed my keys and drove without thinking, letting instinct guide me until the glowing gold sign of Bella's appeared ahead. I pulled into the far corner of the parking lot and stayed inside my car. The engine ticked softly as it cooled the only sound in the space where my daughter's voice used to live. A silver SUV pulled in a few minutes later. Selena stepped out first, bright hair curled perfectly, her coat spotless, her posture practiced. Her husband climbed out on the other side, followed by his parents, always polished, always evaluating even from a distance. They walked toward the entrance, laughing, their confidence so effortless, it almost made me smile. Almost. My phone was still in my hand. I tapped the manager's number 1 I rarely used, but had every right to. When he answered, I kept my voice calm. "This is Maris Caro," I said. "Cancel the Caro reservation. Now." He hesitated only long enough to confirm he had heard me, then replied, "Of course, Ms. Caro, it will be done." I lowered the phone into my lap and watched my daughter reach the host stand. From where I sat, I could see her expression shift first, confusion, then irritation, then a spark of panic. She stepped aside and pulled out her phone. It rang in my hand before I could prepare myself. "Mom," Selena's voice was sharp, breathless. "Why are we not being seated? They said our reservation is gone. What is happening?" Her words trembled, and for a moment, everything between us trembled with them. When Selena was little, she used to say, "Thanksgiving was our holiday," a promise I naively believed would survive adulthood. I could still hear her voice, that small lilt she had before the world taught her to sharpen her vowels and hide her softness. As I sat in my car outside Bella's, my phone still warm from her call, the memory slid in without permission. "Mom, can I mash the potatoes?" she asked one year, no older than 8, her cheeks flushed from standing too close to the stove. "You can, sweetheart," I said, handing her the wooden spoon. "Just slow and steady." "We always cook together," she announced proudly, "even when I grow up." I smiled at the memory, even as the truth pressed against it. Back then, our kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people. The fridge rattled, the counters were chipped, and the turkey was whatever size we could afford. Yet Selena bragged about it to every friend she had. "My mom makes the best stuffing in Savannah," she'd say, puffing up like a little rooster. The shift came quietly, so quietly, I almost missed it. One Thanksgiving in her late teens, she looked me over before we left the house. "Could you maybe change that sweater?" she asked. "It makes you look older." I laughed, trying to ease the moment. "Well, I am older." "Yes, but you do not have to look it." She said it lightly, but she would not meet my eyes. Later came comments about my car. "Park a block away, okay? It creaks, and the Harrisons always notice things." Or my voice. "Maybe let me talk at dinner. You sound too soft around them." I tried to push back once. "Selena, this is who I am." "I know," she answered the way someone does when they wish you were someone else. Over the years, I stepped aside more often, arriving late, leaving early, wearing clothes she picked out so she would not feel the need to apologize for me. I thought I was keeping peace. I see now I was teaching her how easily I could disappear. The text she sent wasn't sudden. It was simply the moment she stopped bothering to hide her intent. And as I sat alone in my car, I wondered when love had become something my own child needed to hide. I used to think a mother could never lose her place. But families have a way of rearranging tables until you find yourself without a chair. The first shift happened years before the text message. Selena had invited me to her new home for Thanksgiving, her first as a married woman. I arrived a few minutes early, carrying the sweet potato casserole she used to beg me for. She opened the door, glanced at the dish, then at me. "Mom, the Harrisons are already here," she whispered. "Could you come back in maybe 20 minutes? It will feel less crowded." "Less crowded," I repeated. Not sure if I should laugh or swallow the sting. "It is just easier that way," she added, stepping aside so I wouldn't walk in. A year later, she tried something new. "We might have to put you at the side table," she said while setting out the plates. "The main table is full and the kids will be there." "You don't mind, right?" I looked at her, waiting for a hint of teasing, waiting for a smile to show she was joking. None came. "If that makes things smoother," I replied, even though every part of me knew what that seat meant. Her husband, Rowan, approached then. "Your mom will be fine at the small table," he said, as if I were not standing a foot away. "It keeps everything balanced, as though my presence threatened to tip their perfect display. But the moment that stayed lodged in me came 3 Thanksgivings later. Selena gathered everyone in the yard for family photos. She slipped her arm through her mother-in-law's, pressed close to Rowan, tilted her chin just so. I stood behind her, blinking against the sun. "Mom," she said, glancing back at me, "can you stand off to the side? This one is for the Harrisons." Later that night, she posted the photo online. I noticed the empty bit of space where I had stood before she asked me to move. It had been cropped out cleanly, as if I had never been there at all. Sitting in my car outside Bella's, I finally faced it. Selena had been erasing me for years, and I had let her. If she could push me out so easily, I wondered what else I had allowed her to take. Selena worshipped Bella's for its exclusivity, never knowing the building itself bore my silent investment. The truth did not come with fireworks or flashing lights. It happened quietly years ago when Bella's was nothing more than a dream held together by chipped paint and a failing loan. The owner, then a nervous young man named Caleb, had approached me in a panic. "Ms. Caro, the bank will not extend anything," he said, his hands shaking as he spread papers across my kitchen table. "If I lose this place, I lose everything." I studied him. He reminded me of my late husband, kind eyes, too much hope, and not enough money to outpace the hard days. "How much do you need?" I asked. He hesitated. $200,000. It was nearly every penny left of Bram's pension and our savings combined. I should have walked away. I should have said I was too old, too tired, too afraid. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "If I do this, I want a silent stake. No spotlight. And I want reservation authority for special events." His relief came out in a sob. "You will have whatever you want." We signed the papers 2 weeks later. Years passed and Bella's transformed from a struggling corner restaurant to one of Savannah's crown jewels. Tourists lined up. Locals bragged about getting Saturday seats. And Selena, my Selena, acted as though dining there elevated her above the life she came from. "Bella's is elite," she said once, twirling her napkin beside her polished in-laws. "Only certain people get this kind of reservation." I kept my mouth closed. She never asked how I knew the staff by name. She never wondered why the manager stood a little straighter when I walked by. She assumed I was lucky or familiar or simply ignored. If she had known that her perfect status symbol stood because her mother once emptied her accounts to help, she might have turned that story into another accessory, a shiny badge to boast with. That was the real reason I never told her. I did not want to be just another thing she used for image. Sitting in my car outside the restaurant she loved so dearly, I felt the weight of that secret shift inside me. Canceling their reservation felt like justice. Yet part of me wondered if it was the beginning of something I would not be able to undo. Selena's second call came through with an edge. I recognized the sound of a carefully crafted image cracking. "Mom, you need to call someone," she said immediately, her voice pitched high. "Bella's must have mixed something up. Rowan's parents are upset. They keep asking what happened." I kept my tone mild. "Mixed something up, you think?" "Yes," she snapped. "Obviously. This is humiliating. Just call whoever you know there and fix it." "Who I know," I repeated softly. She huffed into the phone. "You used to say you were friendly with the staff, or the manager, or whoever. Just call them and tell them the reservation was for the Caros. They will fix it." In the background, I heard Rowan murmuring, "Does she not understand how important this dinner is?" His mother followed with, "We flew all the way from Charlotte for this." Selena's voice tightened. "They are blaming me, Mom. They think I messed up the booking. I did not. I confirmed it 2 days ago." I let a small silence stretch just long enough for her to feel it. "Maybe Bella's is overwhelmed," I said. "It is a busy holiday." "That is not helpful," she rasped. "Mom, please, just call them. You can do that much." I pressed my fingers to my forehead. "Selena, after the message you sent me this morning, I assumed you did not want me anywhere near your plans." "That text was not what it sounded like," she said, keeping her voice low since her in-laws were close by. "You are making this into something dramatic." "I see." "Mom." The word came out half command, half plea. "I need you to handle this. Just this once." I breathed in slowly. Her panic, her desperation, her refusal to admit the simplest truth. Every piece of it twisted something inside me I did not want to examine too closely. "All right," I said. "I can help." Relief flooded her exhale. "Thank you. I knew you could fix it." But I added, "There will be a condition." Her breath caught. "What condition?" I let the pause sit between us like a held breath. "Would you still want the reservation?" I asked quietly, "if you knew the cost." Selena wanted perfection. I simply offered her the truth. "Add one more seat, mine." When I called her back, her voice came through, sharp and exhausted. "Did you talk to anyone? Did they fix the reservation?" "They can," I answered, "but only if you add a 13th seat." The silence that followed was immediate and heavy. I pictured her standing outside Bella's entryway, Rowan's parents staring, Rowan shifting his weight, everyone waiting for her to perform composure she no longer had. 13, she said finally. "Mom, that is not what we planned. It is the only way," I replied. I heard Rowan murmur, "Just agree, Selena. Your parents will judge harder if we end up eating fast food." His mother added, "This is already embarrassing enough." Selena lowered her voice. "You are putting me in an impossible position." "No," I said. "I am offering you a solution." She exhaled shakily. "Why do you want this so badly? You never fight me on anything. I should have years ago." Another pause, longer, sharper. Rowan spoke again, impatience slipping through. "Accept it. We cannot stand out here all afternoon." Selena's voice trembled. "Fine. A 13th seat." "Good," I said. "I will handle the rest." I ended the call before she could add anything else. My hand moved automatically as I dialed the manager. "Ms. Caro." He greeted, his tone shifting into something respectful. "Is everything all right? I need the Caro reservation reinstated," I said. "Party of 13. Private dining." "Yes, ma'am. It will be ready." "Should we prepare an additional place setting at the head?" "At the head," I confirmed. He made no comment. He never did. Silent owners were meant to be honored quietly. When I hung up, I watched from my car window as a hostess stepped outside to speak with Selena's group. Their stiff confusion eased into visible relief. Selena tilted her head toward the doorway, giving Rowan's parents a brittle smile. They thought the crisis was solved. They still had no idea whose seat had just been added or what it would mean when I took it. When I entered Bella's that night, every server straightened not for Selena, but for me. Selena and her group were already gathered at the host stand trying to look composed. Rowan's mother kept touching her necklace, glancing around as though the restaurant's elegance might steady her nerves. Rowan muttered something under his breath, and Selena elbowed him sharply. I stepped through the doorway, letting the sound of my heels carry. A young server turned first. His eyes widened. "Ms. Caro," he said quickly. "Welcome back." The hostess followed, straightening so fast her clipboard nearly slipped. "We have your room prepared, Ms. Caro." Selena's head whipped toward me. "Why are they—" She cut herself off when she saw the server step aside to let me pass. Rowan blinked. "Your mother is known here," the hostess smiled. "We take special care of Ms. Caro." Selena's cheeks flushed, a deep, uneasy red. "Mom, what is going on?" I didn't answer. The hostess guided all of us down the hallway toward the private dining room. Every staff member we passed greeted me quietly. "Good evening, ma'am. Nice to see you again." Not loud enough to draw attention, but unmistakably respectful. Rowan's father leaned toward Selena. "You did not mention your mother had connections here." Selena forced a brittle laugh. "She knows people. Sort of." Inside the private dining room, the table gleamed under soft lighting. 13 seats. The head chair sat empty, its place setting, elegantly arranged. The hostess gestured. "Ms. Caro, this is your seat." Selena stiffened. Rowan looked between us confused. His mother raised her brows as if recalculating every assumption she had made that evening. I slid into the head chair, smoothing my napkin onto my lap. For the first time in a long while, my hands didn't shake. Selena lowered herself into a seat 2 spaces away, her smile thin as paper. "Mom," she whispered sharply, "what are you doing?" I met her eyes, steady, unflinching, sitting there surrounded by people who had always seen me as an afterthought. I felt something shift inside me. Not triumph, not revenge, recognition. Would the truth break my daughter? Or finally free both of us? Chapter 8. The dinner, where everything cracked open. 300 words, Selena's father-in-law raised his glass and asked the question that split the night open. "So Maris, how did you manage this reservation?" His tone was polite, but his curiosity was sharp. Selena stiffened instantly. "She has a friend here," she said quickly. "A server or someone. Mom always exaggerates her connections." I folded my hands. "Is that what I do?" She shot me a warning glare. "Mom, please, let me handle." The dining room manager stepped in with perfect timing, placing a bottle of wine near Rowan's father. "If I may," he said gently. The reservation was reinstated under Ms. Caro's authority. Selena's head jerked toward him. "Authority? What authority?" The manager blinked. "Ms. Caro has special privileges." "She always has." Silence fell like a dropped plate. Rowan looked from me to Selena. "You never said anything about this." Selena's voice cracked. "Because I did not know." I breathed in slow and steady. "Your mother did not know because she never asked." I turned toward the table. Bella's almost closed years ago. Caleb came to me desperate. I put in $200,000. Silent capital. Silent ownership. Reservation authority. That is how tonight happened. Rowan's mother gaped. "You own part of Bella's—" "A significant part," I said quietly. Selena's eyes filled, confusion and humiliation mixing in her expression. "Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have used it to impress these people," I answered, nodding toward her in-laws. "Just like you use every part of your life." She shook her head. "That is not fair." I leaned forward. "If I were not successful, if I still lived in that tiny house with the peeling paint, would you still have told me to find somewhere else to eat?" Her breath caught. Her face crumpled. "Mom, Rowan's father cleared his throat. Discomfort written across his features. Rowan looked away, His mother studied her napkin silently, recalculating everything she thought she knew. The image Selena had built for them flickered, then collapsed in the quiet. She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, whispering, "I never meant to make you feel small." But the truth sat between us, undeniable. Could any apology repair the years she spent pretending I wasn't enough? The next morning, Selena knocked on my door. Not with arrogance this time, but with trembling hands. I opened it slowly. She stood there in yesterday's coat eyes, swollen, voice thin. "Mom, can I come in?" I stepped aside without a word. We walked to the kitchen table, the same one where she once spilled cranberry sauce at age 7 and cried until I told her the stain made it special. Now she sat in that same chair with her shoulders curled inward, as if bracing for consequences she could no longer outrun. "Mom," she whispered, "I need to explain." I folded my hands. "All right." She stared down at the table's worn grooves. "I was ashamed," she said. "Not of you, of where I came from. I was terrified Rowan's family would judge me. They already think I am fragile. Underachieving." "You are not underachieving," I said quietly. "I know that. But they measure everything. Income, homes, connections, and I wanted so badly to belong that I started changing details." Her voice cracked. "Then I started changing the story. I made it sound like you barely worked, like we struggled more than we did. I made you small so I could look bigger." The words struck with a slow, painful clarity. She wiped her eyes. "When I sent that text, it was not about wanting you gone. It was about wanting them to approve of me. I thought if you weren't there, I could pretend harder." I let out a shaky breath. "I should have stopped this years ago," I said. "When you asked me to come late. When you pushed me to the side table. When you acted embarrassed just to fit someone else's mold. I allowed it because I wanted peace." "I am so sorry," she whispered. "Can you forgive me?" "Not yet." I said, my voice soft but firm. "I need respect before I can build anything else with you. No more shrinking me to make room for someone else's standards." She nodded through her tears, gripping the edge of the table as if it could steady her. Could this fragile honesty survive the consequences still coming her way? The next Thanksgiving, my table was smaller, but for the first time in years, every seat was filled with someone who truly wanted to be there. I had kept it simple: a turkey barely big enough for 4 mashed potatoes, cornbread, and the old sweet potato casserole recipe Selena used to beg for as a child. The house felt quieter, warmer, like it had been waiting for a different version of this day. A soft knock sounded on my door. When I opened it, Selena stood there holding a pie. Not a perfect bakery one, hers. The crust was uneven. Her hair was pulled back messily, and the apron tied around her waist was the faded one she once mocked for being too old-fashioned. "Mom," she said, shifting awkwardly. "I came early, so I could help." I stepped aside. "I would like that." She followed me into the kitchen, glancing around as though seeing the space for the first time. "Rowan's parents are not happy with me," she admitted quietly. "They keep saying I misled them." I suppose I did. I kept stirring the potatoes. Consequences catch up to all of us. She swallowed. "They do not trust me anymore. Not the way they used to." I didn't answer. She wasn't looking for pity. She was accepting the truth she had earned. She tied her apron tighter. "I know you did not need me here today, but I needed to be here." Then softer. "I want to do better, Mom, even if it takes time." I handed her the spoon. "Then start by helping me with these." For the first time in a long while, her smile looked real. Not polished, not practiced, just real. When dinner was ready, we sat together at the table, 3 seats filled. 1 seat left empty, the napkin folded neatly in front of it. Not for a guest. For the lesson that changed both of us. We ate slowly, talking about small things things that did not require lies or performance. For once, there was no tension, no shame, no scrambling for approval, just family, just effort, just truth. And as I watched my daughter laugh softly at something she spilled, I wondered quietly, how far must love bend before it finally learns how not to break?